I thought I had it all figured out. Waking up early, hitting the gym, training clients, living by routine. I was comfortable, predictable, and in control. My life was mapped out. But sometimes, the smallest shifts turn everything upside down. That's when Ethan walked into my gym. A guy who didn't fit the mold, with a presence that disrupted everything. He wasn't here for simple fitness goals. He wanted something deeper. And suddenly, my world wasn't so certain anymore. What happens when you meet someone who makes you question the life you've always known? As I continued working with Ethan, I found myself noticing things I shouldn't. It started innocently enough, his quiet intensity, the way he carried himself with this unspoken confidence that seemed to draw people in. He wasn't like most clients I trained, who were focused on numbers, routines, and getting through the day. Ethan wasn't just looking for a workout. He was looking for something more. From the very first session, there was an energy between us, something that neither of us could quite explain. At first, I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just part of the job. I was a professional, and this was just another client. But with Ethan, it felt different. Every word he spoke, every look he gave, felt loaded with a quiet depth. And with each session, that intensity grew. I remember the first time we really locked eyes. It was during a routine workout, nothing special. But when our gazes met, something shifted in the air. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was there. This magnetic pull that neither of us could deny. It wasn't the first time I'd made eye contact with a client, but with Ethan, it was like we were speaking a language without words. It was subtle at first, small gestures that shouldn't have meant much. A brush of his hand against mine as I corrected his form. The way his voice sounded a little different when he asked me about my day. And then there were the moments where he'd get just a little too close, his body language open in a way that felt intentional. It wasn't overt, not really, but there was something in the way he held himself around me, something that made my heart beat a little faster. I couldn't understand why these small things were affecting me so much. After all, I'd worked with clients for years and this never happened. Sure, there was camaraderie, respect, but this was something entirely different. Every time our hands brushed or our shoulders touched during an exercise, I felt a jolt of electricity, and I could see that Ethan felt it too. It wasn't just the physical contact, it was everything. The way he looked at me like he was seeing something I wasn't ready to face. It was like he was looking right through the carefully constructed walls I'd built around myself, and that terrified me. We both tried to ignore it, to push it aside. After all, we had a professional relationship, and I was here to help him achieve his fitness goals, not to unravel my own life. But despite our best efforts, the attraction continued to grow. I found myself eagerly awaiting our next session, counting the days until I'd see him again. I'd tell myself it was just because he was a good client, dedicated, hardworking, committed. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. And then came the moment that really shook me. The moment when Ethan said something that cracked open everything I thought I knew about myself. It was during one of our late-night sessions. The gym was quiet, the hum of the equipment in the background filling the silence between us. We'd just finished a set of squats, and I was adjusting his posture. My hands on his shoulders were meant to guide him, to help him perform the exercise correctly. But as I touched him, I could feel the tension between us rise. It wasn't just about the workout anymore. It was about something else entirely. I looked up at him, my heart in my throat, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. He seemed to sense my hesitation, and then he asked, "How's that feel?" But the way he asked it, the way his voice dropped, made my breath catch in my chest. "Really good?" he added, his face so close to mine I could feel his breath on my skin. For a second, I thought I might faint. I could feel the world around us melt away. The gym, the noise, everything faded into the background. All I could focus on was the way he was looking at me. And the way I was looking at him. For the first time, I didn't know what to do with the feelings rising inside me. Was this just a moment of professional connection? Or was there something more? But before I could respond, a sound broke the moment, a dropped weight somewhere across the gym. And just like that, the spell was broken. I stepped back, trying to collect myself, but inside I was shaken. This wasn't just professional admiration anymore. It was real, it was intense, and it scared the hell out of me. The next few days were a blur. I tried to push everything out of my mind. I focused on my routines, on my job, on anything to avoid thinking about what was happening between me and Ethan. But when Thursday came around, I couldn't help but feel the familiar pull toward him. I knew I had to face whatever this was, whatever was happening between us. Ethan walked into the gym with that same quiet intensity, wearing a tight black tank top that showed off his arms in a way I definitely shouldn't have noticed, but I did. And the moment our eyes met, I knew it was going to happen again. That connection, that unspoken energy, was undeniable. We worked through the session, but the tension between us was thicker than ever. Every touch, every glance, it all felt loaded. And yet, neither of us dared to say anything. We just kept going, pretending it was all normal. But deep down, we both knew it wasn't. The attraction had grown too strong, and by then, it was clear that the line between professional and personal had been crossed. But what did it mean? Was this just a phase? Or was there something real? Something that neither of us could control? As I looked at Ethan, I realized I didn't have the answers. But one thing was clear. Whatever was happening between us, it was far from ordinary. And I wasn't sure I was ready to confront it. But one thing was certain. This connection, this pull between us, was only the beginning. What came next? I didn't know, but I knew I was about to find out. The days that followed that session felt like a blur. I found myself replaying the moments over and over. His voice, the way his eyes held mine, the feel of his presence next to me. Every second with him seemed to carry an unspoken weight, an intensity that neither of us could ignore. Yet we both kept playing it cool, pretending everything was normal, like nothing had changed. But I couldn't shake it. The way my heart pounded when I saw him, the way my breath caught in my chest when our hands brushed, it all felt like something more than just two people working together. It felt like an awakening, like I was finally seeing something that had always been there but had been buried beneath layers of routine and comfort. Ethan was different. There was something about him that made me feel like I was looking at the world with new eyes, seeing parts of myself I had been too afraid to acknowledge. But with him, the walls I had carefully built around myself seemed to crumble, piece by piece. And with every conversation, every look, I found myself opening up in ways I never had before. It wasn't just about the physical attraction anymore. It wasn't just about the way our bodies seemed to draw closer with every session. It was about the emotional pull between us, the rawness of what we were both hiding, what we were both afraid to face. One evening, after a particularly intense workout, we found ourselves sitting on the gym floor, just talking. The gym was quiet, the usual clatter of weights and chatter from other members replaced by an almost eerie silence. It was just the two of us, and for the first time, the air between us felt thick with everything we hadn't said. Ethan, as always, was the one to break the silence. His voice was soft, almost tentative. You ever feel like you're just playing a part in someone else's story? His eyes met mine, and there was something in them, something vulnerable, something I hadn't seen before. I couldn't answer right away. His question hit me in a way I wasn't prepared for. How many times had I felt like that? Like I was just following the script that had been written for me, by my family, by society, by expectations that had been placed on me long before I ever understood who I was. I had always been the good son, the reliable friend, the successful trainer. I dated women, I went to family dinners, I followed the path laid out for me without ever questioning it. But with Ethan, everything felt different. With him, I couldn't ignore the parts of myself I had been hiding, the parts of myself that didn't fit into the neat little boxes I had been trying to force myself into, and that terrified me. But Ethan wasn't just asking about me. He was revealing something about himself too. As he spoke, his eyes seemed to search mine, as if he were hoping I would understand. I used to have this perfect life, he said, his voice quieter now, more introspective. I was engaged, had a great job, lived in a beautiful apartment. Everything was set. But I couldn't breathe in it. I was just going through the motions. And then, One day, I looked in the mirror and realized I didn't recognize the person staring back at me. The words hit me hard. They resonated with me more than I cared to admit. I was stuck in the same trap, living a life that wasn't entirely mine, following a script written by others. Ethan had the courage to walk away from his, to start over. He had the courage to admit he didn't know who he was supposed to be, but he was willing to figure it out. And that made him feel real in a way I had never allowed myself to be. "You called off your wedding?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded, a slight smile playing on his lips. "Yeah, I had to." It wasn't fair to her, to anyone, really. Living a lie wasn't going to make anyone happy. Not me, not her. His words lingered in the air, filling the space between us. I could feel his vulnerability, his openness, and it made me realize just how much I had been hiding from him, and from myself. Ethan's honesty was a breath of fresh air. It was something I had never experienced before. Most people kept their walls up, never letting anyone see the cracks, but Ethan, with his raw truth, was inviting me to do the same. To face the parts of myself that I had buried for so long. But there was still fear, wasn't there? Fear of what might happen if I let myself be vulnerable. Fear of what might come crashing down if I truly embraced who I was, if I stopped pretending to be someone I thought I should be. I didn't know if I was ready for that kind of change. It felt too big, too messy, too terrifying. I realized then that it wasn't just about Ethan. It was about me, about my own journey toward authenticity, about finally looking at myself and asking the hard questions. Was I happy with the life I was living? Was I truly being myself? Or was I just playing a role? And just as I was beginning to process all of this, Ethan spoke again, his voice filled with a quiet intensity. "You know, Dylan, I think you're scared of your own potential." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. It was the truth, wasn't it? I had been holding myself back, afraid of what I might find if I let go of the masks I had been wearing. But Ethan, in his own way, was challenging me to take that leap, to step into the unknown and face the person I was meant to be. There was no going back after that. The walls between us had come down, and there was no more pretending. We had both exposed parts of ourselves that we had been too afraid to acknowledge, and it was liberating, but also terrifying. As I sat there, processing everything he had shared, I realized that what I was feeling wasn't just about the attraction I had for Ethan. It was about the truth I was finally allowing myself to see. The truth that I didn't have to keep pretending to be someone I wasn't. That I didn't have to live my life based on someone else's expectations. And as Ethan looked at me, his eyes filled with an understanding that felt both comforting and challenging, I knew that I was standing at a crossroads. I had a choice to make. I could keep living the way I had always lived, safe, controlled, predictable, or I could take a chance on something real, something messy, something that had the potential to change everything. The tension between us was palpable. There was a truth between us now that couldn't be ignored. But would I have the courage to embrace it? To step into a life that was more authentic, more true to who I really was? I wasn't sure, but I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't keep running from this any longer. The next step, whatever it might be, was mine to take. And as I looked at Ethan, I realized that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone in this as I had thought. The path ahead wasn't clear, but for the first time in a long time, I was ready to walk it, whatever it looked like. And who knows, maybe the vulnerability, the truth, the messy, complicated emotions would lead me exactly where I needed to go. But one thing was certain, I couldn't keep living a lie. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in that. I knew something was different the moment I saw him walk into the gym. There was an undeniable shift in the air, something that wasn't just physical. It wasn't just about his presence in the space. It was the way his gaze locked with mine, the subtle tension in his smile, the way everything felt just a little more alive when he was near. But I couldn't keep pretending. The feelings, the connection. It was becoming too much to ignore. That night was supposed to be like any other. Ethan and I had our usual session planned. We were going through the movements, working on technique, pushing ourselves like we always did. But this time, the energy felt different. I could feel it in the way his muscles tensed under my touch, the way our glances lingered longer than they ever had before. We were close, closer than we had ever been. But what struck me wasn't the proximity, it was the silence that hung between us. There was something unspoken, something pulling us in opposite directions, and with every passing second it became harder to ignore. As I adjusted his form during squats, I felt a strange pull in my chest, a yearning I couldn't quite explain. My hands brushed against his skin, and for a split second, the gym, the weights, everything else faded away. It was just him and me, in that single moment, and the intensity of it hit me like a wave I couldn't outrun. "How's that feel?" I asked, my voice a little lower than usual, a little more hesitant. It wasn't the question that was important, but the way I said it, the way my voice caught. "Good," he replied. And for the first time, his answer didn't just come with a casual grin. His words were laden with something deeper, something more honest. It felt like he was holding back, like we both were. And for the first time, I realized that we didn't need to hold back anymore. I didn't need to. But the doubt came in waves. What was happening between us? Was I misinterpreting things? Was it just the heat of the moment, or was there something more? My mind raced with questions, none of which had clear answers. After the session, we both stood there, standing too close, the air thick with everything unsaid. And then Ethan did something I never expected. He reached out, slowly, almost cautiously, and placed his hand on mine. His fingers were warm. There was a hesitation in the touch, but it wasn't fear. It was something else, a quiet understanding that neither of us could put into words. The touch wasn't urgent or forceful. It was gentle, tentative, as if we were both waiting for the other to decide what happened next. In that instant, everything inside me screamed to pull away. My mind flashed with warnings, doubts, the what-ifs that I had carried with me for so long. But my heart was saying something entirely different. It was telling me to stay, to not pull back, to finally acknowledge what was right in front of me, no matter how much it scared me. I met his gaze, and I saw it there. Something raw, something real. The walls between us had crumbled, and what was left was two people, just two people, standing in the middle of all the messiness, all the confusion, and all the fear. And there was a part of me, a part that had been hiding for so long, that knew that this was a moment I could never walk away from, not without losing something deeper than I had ever known. "You know," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, "I've been trying to figure this out. Trying to figure out what this is between us." His thumb lightly traced circles on the back of my hand, sending shivers up my arm. "But I think I've been afraid to admit it." My heart skipped a beat, my breath catching in my chest as I fought to steady myself. The vulnerability in his voice, in his touch, it was impossible to ignore. And in that moment, I realized I was just as afraid as he was, maybe more so. "I'm scared too," I confessed, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "I don't know what this means or where it goes, but I can't pretend it isn't there." There was a long pause, and I could feel the weight of our confessions hanging in the air between us, heavy and real. But Ethan didn't pull back. Instead, he leaned in just a little closer, his forehead almost brushing against mine. "You don't have to pretend, Dylan," he said, his voice calm, but the intensity in his eyes told me everything. "Not with me." And that's when everything inside me snapped. The hesitation, the doubt, the fear, they all fell away in an instant. I reached for him, and this time I didn't hold back. My lips met his, tentative at first, as if we were both testing the waters, unsure of what would happen. But the moment our lips touched, it was like the floodgates opened. All the pent-up emotions, the longing, the desire, everything came rushing to the surface. The kiss was soft at first, slow, like we were both savoring it, allowing ourselves to experience something that felt too real to be true. But as it deepened, it became something more, something undeniable, something neither of us could deny any longer. This wasn't just a kiss, it was a breaking free, a release of everything I had been holding back for so long. For the first time, I wasn't pretending anymore. I wasn't hiding behind the facade I had built for myself. I was finally being myself, and in that moment, I realized that for the first time in a long time, I was truly alive. We broke apart, our breaths heavy, but neither of us stepped away. We stood there, still so close, so tangled in the after effects of what had just happened. My heart was racing, my mind still spinning with everything that had just unfolded. But one thing was clear. I had crossed a line, and there was no going back. Ethan's hands were still on me, and I didn't want him to move. I didn't want this moment to end. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. I nodded, trying to catch my breath. "Yeah," I whispered. I never expected this." But in that moment, I understood something. This wasn't just about a kiss. It wasn't just about the attraction between us. It was about something deeper. It was about the truth that we had both been afraid to face. The truth that sometimes, the things we fear the most are the very things that set us free. This kiss, this moment, wasn't just a turning point for us. It was a turning point for me. It was a step towards something real, something that had the potential to change everything. And as I looked into his eyes, I realized that whatever came next, I was ready. Because sometimes, the hardest moments are the ones that lead us to exactly where we're supposed to be. What that would be, I didn't know yet. But I knew I was no longer afraid to find out. And neither was Ethan. In that moment, standing in the gym with Ethan, everything felt like it had been leading up to this point. The uncertainty, the doubts, the fear, it all melted away, and for the first time I realized that this moment was more than just a single decision. It was a new beginning, an awakening, something that had been inside me, hidden beneath years of expectations and routines, was finally coming to light. You see, we all live with these scripts we're handed, don't we? From the moment we're born, we're told who to be, what to do, who to love. There's an unspoken rule book we're all supposed to follow, one that tells us to keep our heads down, to be normal, to live up to what others expect. We live in a world that places boundaries around us, telling us which lines are okay to cross, which paths are safe to walk, and which feelings are worth keeping in check. But the truth is, life doesn't happen within those boundaries. Life happens when we stop pretending, when we start breaking down those walls and start being honest with ourselves and the world around us. And that's what I was finally learning. I had spent so long building a life I thought I was supposed to have, following routines, working the predictable hours, dating casually, never truly letting myself explore who I really was. But when Ethan walked into my gym, when he forced me to face things I didn't want to acknowledge, it was like a light was turned on. It wasn't just him. It was me too. I had been running from myself for so long, running from the parts of me that didn't fit the mold I was supposed to follow. The pieces of me that felt wrong or different, the ones I shoved aside because I didn't want to deal with the discomfort. I told myself I didn't need them. I told myself that I was happy with the life I had. But deep down I knew something was missing. Ethan didn't have to say much. He didn't force anything. But when he looked at me, when he touched me, I realized that what I had been hiding wasn't something to fear. It was something to embrace. It was part of who I was, and I needed to stop running from it. We talk so much about being true to ourselves, about living authentically, but how often do we actually do it? How often do we really stop and ask ourselves if we're living the life we want, or the life someone else told us we should have? How often do we push our true selves away, because we're afraid of what might happen if we let others see the real us? But authenticity is a choice. It's about being brave enough to face your fears, to look at the parts of yourself that you've been hiding, and to let go of the control. It's about embracing the unknown, the messy, the uncomfortable, and realizing that the things that scare you the most might just be the things that set you free. I wasn't ready to embrace everything at once. I wasn't ready to let go of everything I'd built. But in that moment, with Ethan standing there, holding my hand, I realized that I had already made the hardest choice. The choice to stop pretending. The choice to stop living by someone else's script. The choice to say, I am enough, just as I am. But there's something else we often forget when we talk about authenticity. It's not just about us. It's about giving others the freedom to be themselves too. It's about creating space for the people around us to take off their masks and let their true selves shine. Because when we embrace our own authenticity, we give permission for others to do the same. What Ethan taught me wasn't just about love or connection. It was about how powerful it is to be vulnerable. How when we allow ourselves to be seen, when we stop hiding behind the walls we've built, we open up the possibility for real, honest connection. And that's when life truly starts happening. I won't lie, it's not always easy. It's not always comfortable to face the truth about ourselves, especially when we've spent years convincing ourselves that we need to be something we're not. But the moment we stop running from who we are is the moment we start living the life we're meant to live. I think about the future now, and for the first time, I don't feel afraid of what might come. I don't feel the need to have everything figured out. I don't have all the answers, and I don't think I ever will. But what I know now is that I'm finally embracing my truth. I'm no longer hiding from the things that make me, me. And that's what Ethan gave me. Not just the courage to be myself, but the reminder that change isn't something to fear. Change is what makes us grow. Change is what opens doors to new possibilities, to new experiences, to a life that is truly ours. Maybe you're like I was, living by a script someone else wrote for you, afraid to step outside the lines, afraid of what people might think if you show up as yourself. But what if I told you that the life you're dreaming of is on the other side of that fear? What if the person you're meant to be is waiting just beyond that line you're afraid to cross? You don't have to have it all figured out today. You don't have to have all the answers. But what you can do today is take a step toward your own authenticity. You can stop pretending to be something you're not. You can stop following the script that doesn't fit. You can give yourself permission to be real. And that, my friend, is where the magic begins. When I look back at where I was before Ethan came into my life, I realized that the change wasn't just in the connection between us. It was in me. It was the moment I chose to stop running and to start living as myself. The moment I chose to embrace change, to embrace love, to embrace vulnerability. So, what's your next step? What script are you following that's not yours? What would happen if you stopped pretending and started being real with yourself, with the people around you? Because the truth is, your story matters, your journey matters, and when you start living authentically, you not only change your life, you change the world around you. So take a deep breath, let go of the fear, and step into your truth. You deserve it, the world deserves it, and who knows? The person you were always meant to be is waiting for you, just on the other side of that leap. So here we are. You've made it this far, and I want to ask you one question. What's holding you back from living authentically? From being the person you were always meant to be? Now, I know this isn't easy. You might be thinking, but the world is full of expectations, of rules, of pressure to be someone I'm not. Trust me, I've been there. I've lived that life, the one that's controlled by everyone but me. I played by the rules. I tried to fit into the mold that was handed to me, even though it didn't feel right. But I also realized something. The longer I kept running from who I truly am, the more I felt like I was losing myself. The more I felt like I was just going through the motions, stuck in a life that wasn't my own. And that's where the magic happens. When you stop pretending to be who everyone else wants you to be, that's when you finally start living. You might not have all the answers, and you don't need to. No one has everything figured out. But the beauty of authenticity is that it's not about perfection. It's about honesty. It's about standing up and saying, "This is me, raw and real. Take it or leave it." So, I'm asking you today, are you ready to stop living by someone else's script? Are you ready to start living for yourself? Because the truth is, the most profound transformation happens when you give yourself permission to be real. If Dylan's story has taught me anything, it's this. You don't need to have all the pieces figured out. The path doesn't need to be perfectly paved, but what you do need is the courage to take the first step toward embracing who you really are. The courage to say, "I'm done hiding. I'm done pretending." What if you didn't care about what people thought? What if you started living according to your own heart, instead of the expectations others have placed on you? You don't need to be anyone else. You don't need to look like anyone else. The world already has one you. and that's exactly who it needs. Now, I know what you're thinking. It sounds simple, right? But making that shift takes bravery. It takes self-love, and it takes a willingness to embrace the discomfort that comes with growth. But once you start living authentically, once you start showing up as yourself, I promise you, it'll be worth it. And here's the thing. When you live authentically, you create space for others to do the same. You inspire them to step into their truth. You show them that it's okay to be real, that it's okay to show up as they are, flaws and all. The ripple effect of your authenticity can change lives, starting with your own. But here's the catch. This isn't just about feeling good in the moment. It's about creating the life you deserve. It's about showing up for yourself, day in and day out, and choosing to love yourself through all the ups and downs. It's about letting go of the fear, the shame, and the doubt that have been holding you back, and taking ownership of your story. Living authentically isn't always easy. It's not about following a straight path. It's about navigating the bumps, the twists, and the unexpected detours. But that's where the beauty is. Because at the end of the day, when you look back on your life, what do you want to remember? The times you played it safe, or the moments you decided to be bold, to be brave, to be you. I'm here to tell you that now is the time. Your time. The world needs your light, your authenticity, your unique story. So I'm asking you, are you ready to stop pretending and start living? Are you ready to embrace who you are, flaws, imperfections, and all? If you're ready to take that first step, then I want you to do something. Hit that like button if you believe in living authentically. Subscribe to this channel if you want more stories, more inspiration, more encouragement to help you along the way. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it, because living authentically is a journey, and we're in this together. And here's the most important thing. Don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect moment, the perfect time, the perfect opportunity. The perfect time is now, right now. Don't let fear control your life any longer. You are capable of so much more than you realize. You are deserving of a life that's true to you. So, let me leave you with this. What's one thing you can do today to start living authentically? Maybe it's a conversation you need to have. Maybe it's a decision you've been putting off. Or maybe it's just giving yourself permission to be yourself without apology. Whatever it is, take that step. The world is waiting for you to show up as the real, authentic you. Your story matters. Your truth matters. And when you start living authentically, the possibilities are endless. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because together we can create a world where we're all free to be ourselves. Now, go out there and embrace the real you. You've got this.